Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 238. On tonight's episode, we're going to keep going down the dark path of Jean Luc Brunel, the modeling agencies, and their connections with Jeffrey Epstein. Tonight, we're going to add another name to the mix, and that name is Faith Cates. Faith Cates is another big shot in the modeling industry, another person who claims she had no idea who Jean Luc Brunel really was, or who Jeffrey Epstein was. In reality, we know that's not the case. In reality, we know that all of these people who had a deeper relationship with Epstein and people like Brunel are all trying to distance themselves from those relationships in hopes that they'll avoid the fallout. Well, unfortunately for them, that's not going to be the case. Every person who was involved in enabling Jeffrey Epstein's behavior, every person who was involved in enabling Jean Luc Brunel's behavior, needs to be questioned by the authorities. And Faith Cates happens to be one of those people as well. Tonight's article is from the Daily Beast, and the headline is, Jeffrey Epstein's modeling ties go much deeper than Victoria's Secret. The authors of this article are Emily Sugarman, Kate Bricolette, and Lachlan Cartwright. And I highly suggest you check out the work that the Daily Beast has done, because they have done some fantastic work on this case. This article was originally published on September 7th and updated on September 16th of 2019. Jeffrey Epstein preyed on young women with promises of modeling gigs for Victoria's Secret and access to his high-powered connections in the fashion world. For years, the perverted multimillionaire faced accusations that he sexually abused underage girls brought to him by Jean Luc Brunel, the owner of the MC2 modeling agency who, according to civil court filings, housed his models in Manhattan apartments owned by Epstein. Brunel has denied these allegations. And we know that that's BS. We know that Jeffrey Epstein was definitely housing these girls. We know that Jeffrey Epstein most certainly had this whole entire apartment building with all of these apartments so that he could do just that. But Epstein's ties to the industry run deeper than previously reported. The financier, pedophile, regularly dropped by the New York offices of one of modeling's biggest agencies, Next Model Management, according to sources familiar with the business, and lavished funds on charities connected to Next co-owner Faith Cates and her family. We know that all of these people that were receiving money from Jeffrey Epstein, all of these charities that were receiving money from Jeffrey Epstein, all of these people have attempted to do the same thing that Faith Cates has tried to do, and that is distance themselves from the fallout and from Jeffrey Epstein. But at the end of the day, when you look at all of the evidence and you look at this case as a whole, and you start looking at the individual relationships that these people had with Epstein and Brunel and the people around Epstein, you start to understand what sort of insanely complex environment this man was operating in. Brunel owned a 25% stake in Next with his brother, according to previously unreported court documents. And when Brunel's relationship with Next soured, he and Epstein tried to expand into deals with the renowned agency Elite Paris. So, Brunel not only had the connection, obviously, he owned MC2, but he also was a 25% stakeholder within Next. As a high-flying money manager, pedophile, in the 1980s, Epstein ran in the same circles as much of the fashion elite. He dated Ford model star Eva Anderson, a former Miss Sweden, and flew everyone from Naomi Campbell to modelizing billionaire Ron Burkle on his private plane. Now, Eva Anderson is now married to Glenn Dubin. Obviously, Naomi Campbell needs no introduction for anybody out there listening. And Ron Burkle is a bagman for the Democratic Party, a huge bundler, a guy who is very, very connected to the inner workings of all the power players in the Democratic Party. And Burkle is a huge and big friend and supporter of Bill Clinton still to this day. According to a former associate, he partied around the globe with groups of playboys including Brunel Spectrum Models co-owner James Rowan and Fabrizio Lombardo, a close friend of Harvey Weinstein. Oh, does that shock anybody? We know that Harvey and old Jeffrey were pals. And like I'm always saying, fellow travelers and all, right? These people are all connected. They're all sick. They were all rubbing elbows at their stupid ass so-called polite society hangouts. And what, you think they weren't sitting there trading stories? Their disgusting ass gross stories? Of course they were. Everybody around these people knew just exactly what they were up to. On Wednesday, the French newspaper La Personne reported that authorities in France are seeking Brunel as part of their probe into Epstein, and that they recently interviewed two women who say they were Brunel's victims in the late 1970s and early 1980s. According to police, Brunel was in Paris this summer before he took off. He may be in Brazil. I mean, what is this guy, James Bond? He just disappears and nobody knows where he's at? I mean, come on, you have to have serious resources to go on the lam like this. How come there's not an Interpol bulletin to bring this man in? Why is he not considered an international fugitive at this point? Who is protecting Jean Luc Brunel? Less public, however, was Epstein's relationship with Next model maker Faith Cates. The 61-year-old Cates founded the business in 1989 and built it into one of the most respected agencies in the industry. Her partners at the time included Brunel and Lorenzo Pedrini, a former male model who appears in Epstein's Little Black Book of Contacts. Spectrum Models co-owner Joe Wilkenfeld later merged his agency with Cates' budding shop. Look, Cates needs to be completely and utterly investigated for her ties to Jean Luc Brunel and for her ties to Jeffrey Epstein. What was her role? Was she involved in procuring girls? Did she know? Why are these questions not being asked? Why are these people not being subpoenaed? Through an attorney, Cates denied any business or financial relationship with Epstein. Her attorney said she had seen him once or twice a year over the last decade. Yeah, I'm sure that's the case. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was just giving money to her charities and whatnot because they were hardly friends, right? Epstein wasn't expecting anything in return. He's just such a generous man that he decided he was going to dole some fazools out to everybody around him because, you know, what the hell? Every single time Epstein doled out money, every time Epstein entered into one of these charitable givings, there was always an ulterior motive. And people like Faith Cates understood that, they accepted it, and they knew that at some point a favor would be asked of them. Regarded as a key player in the industry, Cates built Next into an empire with offices around the globe. The agency now represents musicians, actors, social media stars, with a portfolio boasting beauties like Alexa Chung, Petra Nemkova, Miranda Kerr, Molly Sims, and Mila Jovovich. Yeah, well, how many girls came through those doors, ended up with Epstein and Jean Luc Brunel, and then ended up discarded and thrown away after they were considered of no more use to those animals? Anyone want to answer those questions? How about we talk about those girls? The Long Island native is also known for her philanthropy, especially with the Ovarian Cancer Research Fund. Of course she is. All of them are involved in charity, right? So inevitably, when the shit starts rolling downhill and people start to find out about her relationship with Epstein and her ties to Jean Luc Brunel, she can fall back and say, hey, I was never involved in that. Look at this charity work I do with the Ovarian Cancer Research Fund. It's such a shell game, and all of them use it as a shield. They all use their charitable givings as a shield. I'm so sick and tired of it. According to one bio for Advertising Week, Cates has raised more than $30 million for ovarian cancer research, partially through Super Saturday, an annual shopping fundraiser in the Hamptons that she invented with designer Donna Karan and the late Harper's Bazaar editor Liz Telberis. Now, don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. Charity work is a very noble and good thing. And when you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart, I think it's one of the most awesome things that you could ever be involved in. And it is one of the most rewarding activities to be involved in. And coming from somebody who lives with a cancer survivor, definitely 100% charity is needed when it comes to cancer research. No doubt about it. But people like this, people like Faith Cates, who act like they're these great, noble people who just want to help others and who just want to raise money for people to battle cancer and so that there's a cure maybe at some point, that's not really what they're doing it for, in my opinion. These people are incredibly evil, incredibly manipulative, and they know how to game the system. So while I think it's a good thing that this $30 million has been raised for ovarian cancer research, I don't think it's a good situation for people like Faith Cates and others to be able to use their charitable givings as some sort of shield, right? Because guess what? At the end of the day, we're all gray characters. We're all capable of incredible good, and we are all capable of incredible evil. And just because you have done a good deed, that does not wipe out or wash out the evil ones you have done before. The guest lineup has included Kelly Ripa and husband Mark Consuelos, Barbara Walters, Blake Lively, Christy Turlington, and Carmelo Soprano. Edie Falco. Cates is also no stranger to speaking out on modeling industry issues and in service of her talent roster. In 2017, as the MeToo movement was picking up, Cates discussed sexual harassment in the fashion sector by shutterbugs and agents. Look, again, really? You're going to discuss the MeToo movement while you used to be a business partner with Jean Luc Brunel? And when you were a business partner with him, everybody knew what he was being accused of. People knew the sort of cockroach he was, but you're still in business with him. You're still making money with him. Oh, that's okay, right? But once the Me Too movement started picking up steam, you jumped on that boat thinking that that would help your image a little bit as well, didn't you, Faith Cates? At the time, she told Women's Wear Daily that she didn't hear much about abusive behavior, but when incidents have occurred, she would call the offending photographer herself. I think Next is pretty powerful, and the girls don't get hit on that much anymore. I think the ones that do are the ones that don't have great representation. We have a voice, Cates told WWD. Meanwhile, the modeling industry is strewn with stories of girls who were being assaulted, abused, and taken advantage of. What is Miss Cates doing for them, really? Was she being an advocate for these women when she was accepting money from Jeffrey Epstein or hanging out with Jean Luc Brunel? Of course she wasn't. Just another hypocrite to add to the pile. If you think ever that somebody's bothering you on set, you call us and somebody will be there in 15 minutes. Cates claims she tells her models, "We do what we can do to protect our people." Okay, whatever. Cates met Epstein through a mutual friend in the 80s. A lawyer for the talent agent told the Daily Beast in a letter. She claims to have lost touch with him in the early 90s and to have been reacquainted with him about 10 years ago after his release from prison. So that makes it so much better, right? She didn't have any contact with him until after he was released from prison, because that's the time you want to reach out to somebody, right? That's the time to rekindle an old relationship. Oh, Mr. Epstein, you went to jail for abusing girls. Maybe we should be friends again. Maybe we should have some business dealings. Why don't you come on over to the shop so we can talk some business? Are these people for real? If you didn't realize something was wrong before he was arrested, which you should have, You cannot use that same excuse the second time around when he was already indicted and convicted. There is no excuse for hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein after his first arrest. Are you insane? Who believes that sort of excuse? Mr. Epstein informed Miss Cates and everyone else he knew that the reason he served a year in prison was because he was caught with a prostitute who, unbeknownst to him, was underage, and that even though he was innocent, he accepted a plea deal and agreed to serve a year in jail with work release, solely to avoid the risk that he could be sentenced to 25 years in prison if he went to trial and fought the charges, the attorney said. Is anyone believing this? A simple Google search would have told you the real story. A simple Google search would have told you that it was at that point dozens of girls from Palm Beach who have come forward. Instead, you use this as your excuse. You use this as the excuse you share with the world, as if we're going to accept this. Jeffrey Epstein was a monster, and you acted as a conduit to get his image rebuilt and to have him come back into so-called polite society with the rest of you so-called disgusting elites. That's the real story here, Ms. Cates. He added, given the relatively light sentence Mr. Epstein received, and the fact that my client never personally observed any inappropriate conduct by Mr. Epstein, she had no reason to disbelieve him. Oh, whatever. That's such BS. I mean, again, does she really think that anybody is going to believe this? Does she really think that anyone is going to believe this? She had no reason to disbelieve him. She had no reason to disbelieve him because she didn't want to disbelieve him. Or she knew, and she willingly entered into the relationship a second time with Epstein, knowing that he was a monster. I'm sorry, but nobody's going to believe this bullcrap excuse, okay? Certainly not me, and certainly not anybody out there listening to this podcast. 4 former Next employees told the Daily Beast they saw Epstein in their offices or answered phone calls from him in the years between Next's founding in 1989 and Epstein's incarceration in 2008. Right there, destroying her story right on its face. Oh, I didn't know Jeffrey Epstein. We didn't have a relationship anymore. We drifted apart. Meanwhile, you have ex-employees here that are saying that's not the case. Again, none of these people in the modeling industry are anybody that I would trust. I gotta be honest with you folks. It seems like the modeling industry is one of the seediest, dirtiest industries that has ever been established in the world. What is wrong with these people? Timothy Priano, a makeup and hair agent who worked with the company, recalled being pulled into a meeting with Epstein and Cates at the New York offices in the late 90s. Another employee said the money man was in and out of our office constantly in the early 2000s. I mean, come on. And what'll happen is this Faith Cates will think that everybody should just believe her story because, she's Faith Cates. And she donated a bunch of money to ovarian cancer But in reality, the cat is out of the bag. There's no going back, all right? We've, like Morpheus offered Neo the red pill. We have all eaten the red pill at this point when it comes to this case. We cannot go back. And Faith Cates, your BS excuses are not going to cut it. I would only see him come in and go straight to her office with the door closed, that person said. It was always like, get Jeffrey Epstein on the phone. So again, these ex-employees are corroborating that Faith Cates is BSing about her relationship with Epstein and that the ties run so much deeper than she ever let on. Another woman who worked at the New York office recalled answering the phone when Epstein called. She didn't recognize his name and probably would not have remembered him at all if another employee hadn't turned to her and remarked, "Oh, it's that creepy guy." And this is the kind of guy that Faith Cates would have down at the office, huh? The kind of guy she'd allow around the models. Brilliant. What an awesome display of judgment, Faith Cates. Kate's attorney said Epstein would drop by her offices to say hello on occasion, but never took meetings there or had any business or financial relationship with Next. Well, the only way we can get to the bottom of that, is if we have a RICO investigation. I want to see all of it. Let's see all of the financials. I want to see the ties that bind. Epstein was also reported to have dated model Alina Puskau, a Playboy cover girl and former Victoria's Secret angel. In May 2005 article, the New York Post called Puskau a Romanian stunner who used to date reclusive billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. The report continued, Epstein, who handles Leslie Wexner's fortune, helped land her a gig modeling for Wexner's Victoria's Secret brand, we hear, and paid for her to live in high style. One friend of Puskau reportedly told the Post, without Jeffrey, she would never have gotten the Victoria's Secret job. Puskau declined to comment for this story. Well, we know that. It's already been established that Epstein had it completely and locked in when it comes to Victoria's Secret, right? He had run of the castle. He could do whatever he wanted. He was running around that place like he was Robert Baratheon in King's Landing. Whatever he wanted, he had. Epstein also dated another Next model who later became a real estate agent, according to a former employee of the company, and her name appears in Epstein flight logs. A third Next model appears in Epstein's infamous address book and was listed in Epstein's butler's notes under visitor's massage. She was also in Epstein's flight logs in 2003, but it's unclear if she modeled with Next at the time. What it looks like to me, folks, is that Epstein was also using Next as another place for him to cultivate young women, procure them, bring them into his atmosphere, brainwash them, and then abuse them. The model realtor was photographed with Epstein at a launch party for Radar Online in May 2005 and snapped at a September 2005 event Epstein attended for the film Capote. She also attended a November 2004 gala for the Ovarian Cancer Research Fund, of which Kate was president of the board from 1994 to 2011. Boy, it is crazy how connected all of these people are, huh? And what's even crazier is that none of these people have been wrangled up yet and perp walked down to a federal building for a nice long talk with an investigator. Next and Kate say they had no knowledge of Epstein dating, socializing with, or flying on a plane with any of the agency's models. They don't know anything, folks, all right? You're barking up the wrong tree. Faith Cates don't know anything. Next Modeling don't know anything. Nobody knows anything. This all just happened in a vacuum. Tax records for Epstein's nonprofit, the COUQ Foundation Incorporated, show Epstein donated $50,000 to Kate's cancer charity in September 2006, 2 months after he was busted for soliciting teen girls. Yeah, they didn't have any relationship, though. And in 2012, as he issued a flurry of philanthropic press releases to repair his reputation, Epstein heralded another donation to Kate's group, declaring early detection of ovarian cancer gets substantial support from science investor, pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein. And again, we've established this already, right? He has used these people as a conduit to return to civil society. He wants to be part of so-called polite society so he can continue the blackmail operation. And Faith Cates was just another willing conduit to get him there. The financier, pedophile, bestowed funds on Cates 4 years later, too, with a $10,000 donation to her latest nonprofit venture, the Women Global Cancer Initiative. As the Daily Beast reported, Epstein provided the funds through his secret charity, Gratitude America Limited. Boy, Jeffrey Epstein sure has a lot of secret bank accounts. He sure had a lot of different offshore ways to move money. That sounds like a normal person, right? Like somebody who's not engaged in money laundering. I know all of you have about 50 different bank accounts that you're moving money around in, right? Right? Mr. Epstein's name was on a list with hundreds of other donors Miss Cates solicited to make donations to her cancer charities. An attorney for Cates said, "Indeed, Mr. Epstein was well known for his philanthropy, donating over $30 million through his private foundations to numerous charitable causes between 1998 and 2018. Like that makes it okay. Like that makes it okay that Faith Cates and Next took his money. It doesn't make it okay, alright? It just makes you scummy like the rest of them. Have some backbone. Have some spine. Have a little bit of morality, would you? Epstein also recently funded a nonprofit where Kate's son Dylan Cogan worked. In 2017, Gratitude America sent $25,000 to the Junior Tennis Champion Center in College Park, Maryland, where Cogan worked as a summer community outreach assistant manager in 2018. According to social media posts, Cogan coached at JTCC in 2017 too. Well, isn't that nice? Let's just have Jeffrey Epstein involved with more teenagers after his arrest. No big deal. He can just donate to these children's charities. He doesn't expect anything in return, folks. He doesn't want access. No. Out of the kindness of his heart. Tennis Center CEO Raymond Benton told the Diamondback, a student newspaper at the University of Maryland, that his organization returned Epstein's total of $35,000 in donations with a check to be cashed by mid-May. Benton said Gratitude America gave JTCC $25,000 in August 2017 and $10,000 in July of 2018. Why did you accept it in the first place? Again, nobody does their homework. You don't have somebody who's checking, who's donating money. So any dictator, war criminal, serial killer, anyone can just come donate money to your charity and you're going to accept it willingly? Benton did not return the Daily Beast request for comment, nor did Will Hopton, JTCC's director of marketing. Of the JTCC donation, Cates told the Daily Beast, "My son volunteered in high school, and I believe they gave back the donation." As if that makes it better. As if that makes it okay. Why did they accept the donation in the first place? And furthermore, if your relationship with Epstein wasn't great, why is your son, who is a counselor for this organization, getting this donation from Epstein in the first place? Cates was not the only modeling industry insider Epstein targeted in his quest to repair his reputation. Another beneficiary was Eva Anderson, his model ex-girlfriend who founded the Dubin Breast Cancer at Mount Sinai Hospital in 2011. A year later, Epstein issued a press release publicizing his financial support of her effort. And, as the Daily Beast revealed, Epstein also donated to Harvard's Hasty Pudding Institute of 1770, of which Anderson's daughter, Selena Dubin, was a member. Now, we've talked about his ties to Glenn Dubin a lot, and I think it's very important to note that Glenn Dubin, Eva Dubin, and Jeffrey Epstein are a lot more connected and were a lot closer than even the legacy media is leading on. That circle needs to be explored heavily. And Dubin and his wife, they most definitely need to answer questions. Epstein also teamed up with Jean Luc Brunel, one of Next's founding partners, in a close relationship that is now under scrutiny. Brunel's name was kept out of the press at the time of Next's formation, after multiple models accused him of sexual assault in a 1988 60 Minutes feature. Brunel denied these allegations. But according to previously unreported court documents, Brunel and his brother Arnaud were 25% owners of the fledgling agency, and also Steve Mnuchin had some ties with them as well. We're going to talk about that at tomorrow, probably dig into that a little bit. Next also employed Arnaud as a consultant and paid him a $30,000 a year salary plus 3% of the company's annual revenue. In court documents, Kate said the brothers basically had control of the Florida Next office, but she didn't really know them. She didn't know Epstein either. In 1996, Next sued the brothers, accusing them of raiding the agency's Miami office to set up a rival agency of their own. In an affidavit, Cates claimed Jean-Luc and Arnaud solicited her models and staff to join their new agency, located just one block from Next's Miami headquarters, even as Jean-Luc continued to hold a 25% stake in Cates' company. No honor among thieves or human traffickers, obviously. Unless the defendants are stopped by this court, they will continue to raid plaintiff's office, pirate plaintiff's employees and models, and divert all of the business from plaintiff to themselves, Next Lawyers wrote. So basically they were attempting to do a corporate raid, right? They were going in there trying to take all the models, all the employees from Next, and move them over to their new business. Asked about her relationship with Brunel, Cates told the Daily Beast, "He was a minority partner 30 years ago, and after 2 years left the company. I haven't seen him since then." Court documents, however, show the Brunel family apparently worked for the company for at least 5 years. They're included on the company's partnership agreement in 1989, and Arnaud's name appears on the official company documents until 1994. Just in this article alone, it's been established that Faith Cates likes to play loose with the truth. The split between Brunel and Next did not seem to strain the Frenchman's relationship with Epstein. Between 1999 and 2005, Brunel flew on the financier pedophile's private plane more than 20 times and was such a regular at his Palm Beach estate that staff recalled him whipping up his own meals in the kitchen. When Epstein was arrested in 2008, Brunel visited him nearly 70 times in jail. What a revolving door in that jail, huh? What was he, hosting a rave? What was, you have some DJs there and they were partying. Steve Aoki was spinning his set and he was hosting a rave and all these people were coming. What does this even mean, all of these people, 70 times while he was in jail? One of Epstein's first public accusers, Virginia Roberts, claimed in legal filings that Brunel was one of the many powerful men who Epstein forced her to sleep with in her years while in Epstein's orbit. She also accused Brunel of using his agency to find foreign girls, obtain visas for them, and farm them out to Brunel's friends, including Epstein. And we've talked about this a lot as well. We know this is the case. We know that Virginia has went on record saying this, and all of the other evidence leads to this point as well. A lot of girls came from poor countries or poor backgrounds, and he lured them with the promise of making good money, Roberts said in a 2015 affidavit. Jeffrey Epstein has told me that he has slept with over 1,000 of Brunel's girls, and everything that I have seen confirms this claim. It blows me away every time I read that number. 1,000 girls? 1,000 of Brunel's girls, huh? Makes you wonder, what happened to all of those girls afterwards? What sort of misery have they been in? A former Karen employee told the Daily Beast he frequently arrived at the New York office to find women waiting for him, saying Brunel had sent them. The women said Brunel had promised them test shoots and housing, but to the former employee's knowledge, they never worked a single day in the industry. So the Next office was basically a hub, where Jeffrey Epstein would go and pick up the girls he was going to abuse that were sent by Jean Luc Brunel. And they were using Next and the other modeling agencies as a cover. That's called a front, okay? And organized crime does it all the time. A flower shop out front, and in the back, they're running a gambling game. The difference is, they get arrested. Of course I surmise something is going on, because why, if you're in the business, why are you going to waste your time with people who are not right for the agency and the image of the agency, he said. Jean-Luc had a problem of the chase, he added, the chase and the conquer. And that's what it was to this guy, right? Everything was about more money, consolidating his power, helping out his boy Jeffrey Epstein have more young girls for whenever he wanted them. That was Jean Luc Brunel's whole goal in life and role as Jeffrey Epstein's pal. Another former Karen employee told the Daily Beast that the company was barely profitable and paid for any extra expenses with influxes of cash from Brunel's brother and their business partner, Etienne Desroy. Soon after the two financiers pulled out in 2003, Brunel's operation collapsed. The Paris office filed to revoke Brunel's claim to the Karen trademark in 2004, and in 2005, he changed the name of the agency to MC Squared. Similar to Roberts' allegations, a former MC Squared bookkeeper told the FBI in 2010 that Brunel had flown in teenage models from around the world to be housed in Epstein's Upper East Side apartments. She claimed the girls were loaned out to wealthy clients for up to $100,000 a night and were not paid if they refused to be molested. Brunel has denied these claims and says the woman was fired from his agency for embezzling company funds. How come everyone's always embezzling these people, right? Oh yeah, I'm getting stolen from. I'm the victim here. Yeah, right, man. Look, here's the deal, okay? Nobody's embezzling your funds. She outed you, and you decided you were going to can her to try and, stop it at the butt, right? Stop it right away and make sure that she doesn't ruin your business by outing you. As Brunel's businesses struggled in the early 2000s, Epstein seemed to be trying to diversify. In 2004, he tried and failed to purchase the American arm of Elite Models, according to the New York Post. The next year, he extended a $1 million line of credit to Brunel to invest in a new agency with Elite Paris. Epstein's attorney, Darren Indyke, registered the new company to 457 Madison Avenue, the same address as the financier, pedophile's investment firm. Again, Darren Indyke and his dirty fingerprints all over this case and this story. This man is a menace, in my opinion, and he definitely needs to be brought to justice. But this plan, too, was short-lived. According to court documents, Elite Paris called off the experiment after news began surfacing of Epstein's arrest. In fact, Brunel later sued Epstein, claiming rumors and news reports about his behavior had tarnished the agent's reputation and cost him millions of dollars in lost business. The suit was still making its way through the court when Epstein died. Again, nobody believes that. You and Epstein were thick as thieves. The only reason you even put forth that suit was because you figured it was your only way out to try and protect yourself. I strongly deny having participated neither directly nor indirectly in the actions Mr. Jeffrey Epstein is being accused of, Brunel said in a statement when he filed the lawsuit. I strongly deny having committed any illicit act or any wrongdoing in the course of my work as a scouter or model agency's manager. That's such a lie. There's a lot of girls that totally disagree with that and would like to call you to account for that, sir. Where I'm sitting, you look like an absolute liar. When Epstein failed to make inroads in the modeling industry, he relied on his other business connections. Multiple aspiring models have accused Epstein of assaulting them after claiming he was a scout for Victoria's Secret, the iconic lingerie brand owned by Epstein's top benefactor and client, Les Wexner. There is no evidence that Epstein ever served as a formal scout for Victoria's Secret or L Brands, its parent company. No, he just had the keys to the whole entire kingdom, right? That counts for something, don't you think? He doesn't have to be an official employee of Victoria's Secret to flaunt his power, to use his power to abuse these girls. And sources said they quickly notified Wexner when they learned Epstein was trying to involve himself in catalog scouting. Upon arriving at his New York mansion, Ty says she tried showing Epstein her portfolio. Instead, he began taking off his clothes and lay down naked on a massage table. She escaped by throwing a vibrator at his head and running out the door. 3 other models testified at recent court hearings that Epstein used his modeling industry connections to lure them in. Another woman testified that Epstein had told her from a young age that she could be a model, while a second, Margique Chartoni, said a friend promised her Epstein could use his connections to the art and fashion world to help her. Both women say Epstein sexually assaulted them. A third woman, identified only as Jane Doe 3, said a friend first mentioned Epstein to her as a caring man who could help her with her modeling career. She eventually met him at his New York home, and she says he sexually assaulted her. Afterwards, she says, she became depressed and stopped going to castings. 5 months after moving to New York City to pursue her dream of modeling, she left. How many times have we heard that story? How many of these models have come with these grand delusions that Jeffrey Epstein put in their head, that they're going to be these big stars, and then he destroys their dreams, crushes their dreams, breaks them down, and forms them into what he wants them, and brainwashes them. And these poor girls have nowhere else to turn. Most times they're not even American citizens. They come over here with the promise of him getting them a green card or a work visa, and none of it occurs. And they're stuck, abused, and used, and discarded by Jeffrey Epstein and his disgusting friends. And nobody in law enforcement ever stood up to stop it. I buried this deep within me, and all of the new occurrences that have come up in the media is what brought it back up for me, she testified. And I feel sickened and saddened that it took so many years, and God knows how many victims for this to finally come out. But I'm thankful it did. She added, I'm just angry that he's not alive anymore to pay for the price of his actions. I hear you there, 100%. I'm not sad that he's dead by any means. But the fact that he didn't have to answer for his crimes, that he didn't have to face the brave survivors in court, that's what bothers me. Not that he's dead. The man deserved to die, in my opinion. There's no room on the planet for people like him. But the reality of the situation is this, folks. While Epstein might be gone, his enablers, his friends, those who protected him, and his co-conspirators are still running free. The question still remains, when is that going to change? If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, everybody, I'll be back later on, and we'll do it all over again.